Welcome to Talks with Torah Women. We are a group of 4 Torah-believing women who get together and we read different parts of the Bible together, and we share our thoughts and our opinions. So we are going to be discussing Esther chapter 3 in this portion of our video. And so really quickly, just to introduce all of us, we have Sierra, and she is from Tennessee. She's been married for 3 years, and she's a stay-at-home mom of 2. And she is also an ESL teacher online. And we have Gabrielle, who's from Oklahoma. She has been married for 7 years and has a background in health, wellness, fitness, and aspiring to become a holistic nutritionist, health coach. I have all of this because I'll forget it.
Yeah. Okay.
And currently she operates an in-home, toxic-free organic daycare, which is really awesome. It's nice to give parents that option.
Yeah.
And then other Gabby, from Arizona. She's been married for 6 years. She has two kids, and she is a flight instructor. So she's a pilot, so she actually knows how to fly airplanes, which I think is awesome. You're also a real estate agent, which isn't on here, but I thought I'd throw that in there because I think it's pretty cool. And then there's me. I'm Monica. I'm from California, and I work at one of the colleges here in Arizona, and I teach English, and I also teach English as a second language. So without further ado, just really quickly, in case any of you guys are growing your own organic farms or gardens, all of us in this group are currently growing our own fruits and vegetables, and starting our own little gardens. So that's definitely something that at some point we will be addressing, I'm sure, like throughout our videos at different times, and maybe we'll even, create videos specifically about gardening. But right now we're going to focus on Esther chapter 3.
I'll go ahead and read.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be reading from the Complete Jewish Bible, Study Bible version. So Esther chapter 3. Sometime later, King Ahasuerus began to single out Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, for advancement. Eventually, he gave him precedence over all his fellow officers. All the king's servants at the king's gate would kneel and bow down before Haman, because the king had so ordered. But Mordecai would neither kneel nor bow down to him. The king's servants at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why don't you obey the king's order?" But after they had confronted him a number of times without his paying attention to them, they told Haman, in order to find out whether Mordecai's explanation that he was a Jew would suffice to justify his behavior. Haman was furious when he saw that Mordecai was not kneeling and bowing down to him. However, on learning what people Mordecai belonged to, it seemed to him a waste to lay hands on Mordecai alone. Rather, he decided to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole of Ahasuerus' kingdom. In the first month, the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of Ahasuerus, they began throwing pur. That is, they cast lots before Haman every day and every month until the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to Ahasuerus, "There is a particular people scattered and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people. Moreover, they do not observe the king's laws. It doesn't befit the king to tolerate them. If it please the king, have a decree written for their destruction, and I will hand over 330 tons of silver to the officials in charge of the king's affairs to deposit in the royal treasury. The king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hamdata, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. The king said to Haman, "The money is given to you and the people too, to do with as seems good to you." The king's secretaries were summoned on the 13th day of the first month. They wrote down all Haman's orders to the king's army, commanders, and governors in all of the provinces, and to the officials of every people, to each province in its own script, and to each people in their own language. Everything was written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's signet ring. Letters were sent by courier to all the royal provinces to destroy, kill, and exterminate all Jews from young to old, including small children and women, on a specific day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to seize their goods as plunder. A copy of the document to be issued as a decree in every province was to be publicly proclaimed to all the people so that they would be ready for that day. At the king's order, the runners went out quickly, and the decree was issued in Shushan, the capital. Then the king and Haman sat down for a drink together, but the city of Shushan was thrown into confusion. Okay.
Are you reading out of Septuagint?
Yeah, and I think it just it wrote down the letter of what it said.
Yeah, that's what
Is that what you were reading?
I'm reading the Septuagint too.
Yeah, it just kind of kept going about.
Oh, there's more?
I think so.
Sierra, are you reading the Septuagint?
I pulled it up and I can see a lot of stuff that's not in this one.
So really quickly, just for those of you who aren't familiar with the Septuagint and the Masoretic text, the Masoretic text is the Bible that we have basically today. Like all of our Bibles are translated from the Masoretic text, and the Septuagint was one of the first Hebrew or Greek translations. So it was translated from Hebrew to Greek. And it was, I guess, like one of the first of its kind. And who was it was it Alexander?
No,
who was
before. I don't know his name.
Okay, so there was some really powerful guy who basically had the Jews translate their Hebrew Bible into Greek. And it was the Septuagint. And the Masoretic text came at a later time. And so there are some discrepancies between the two texts, between the Masoretic and Septuagint. Oftentimes, there will be things missing from the Masoretic that are found in the Septuagint, which is what we're discussing in what we're reading.
Should I read the letter, or you want to read the letter?
You can. Go ahead.
And this is all in parentheses, actually. So, do you think it was? No. So this is labeled as parentheses, whereas in the Greek, it's like Greek, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the Greek, it's actually in quotation marks. So, and this is the following is the copy of the letter. The great king. It says Ahasuerus. Writes thus to the rulers and inferior governors of 127 provinces, from India to even Ethiopia, who hold authority under him, ruling over many nations and having obtained dominion over the whole world. I was minded, not elated by the confidence of power, but ever conducting myself with great moderation and with gentleness, to make the lives of my subjects continually tranquil, desiring both to maintain the kingdom quiet and orderly to its utmost limits, and to restore the peace desired by all men. But when I had inquired of my counselors how this should be brought to pass, Ammon, who excels in soundness of judgment among us, and has been manifestly well inclined without wavering and with unshaken fidelity, and has obtained the second post in the kingdom, informed us that that a certain ill-disposed people is mixed up with all the tribes throughout the world, opposed in their laws to every other nation, and continually neglecting the commands of the kings, so that the united government, blameless and ministered by us, is not quietly established. Having then conceived that this nation alone of all others is continually set in opposition to every man, introducing as a change a foreign code of laws, and injuriously plotting to accomplish the worst of evils against our interest, and against the happy establishment of the monarchy. We have accordingly appointed those who are signified to you in the letters written by Amon, who is set over the public affairs and is our second governor, to destroy them all utterly with their wives and children by the swords of their enemies, without pitying or sparing any, on the 14th day of the 12th month Adar of this present year, that the people aforetime and now ill-disposed to us have been violently consigned to death in one day, may hereafter secure to us continually a well-constituted and quiet state of affairs. So that's like the full letter that was issued, I guess.
That's what it seems like.
Wow.
Sounds like the U.S. But
Yeah.
okay.
So,
About the money, that's gonna be my first question because I was confused. Wait, is it 10,000? Right? Okay. I will remit. So this is verse 9. If it seems good to the king, let him make a decree to a decree to destroy them, and I will remit into the king's treasury 10,000 talents of silver. And the king took off his ring and gave it to the hands of Amon. So Amon is going to give this money to the king, right? The 10,000 talents of silver, right?
that's what it sounds like.
Okay. Just for like getting what he wants, basically,
Yeah, like
because
for a decree for their written destruction.
Is that what you got, Sarah?
it read
I'm
differently.
trying to reread it and see what I'm getting from it.
In the Masoretic, what is it again? 9.
So Haman like ascends and gains so much favor and power that the king makes him like the over all of the officers and officials. So, like, who was he before? Was he just like an extremely wealthy man?
One of the officials. One. It's at verse 1, and set his throne above all of the officials. Set his throne. It kind of seems like he already had a throne, quote unquote, a throne, like a seat.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the question, I guess, that I would like to know based on your question is, was there already a position, or is his position the first position ever created? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what. Because it says, like, in verse 2, all the king's servants at the king's gate would kneel and bow down before Haman because the king had so ordered. So it makes it sound like Haman, like, was not like a servant or like a king's gate official, but like somehow, he was in this inner circle and became that. And the king just kind of gave him a signet ring, like, whatever you say goes. And I'm giving you, like, my authority, like, is behind you and represented through you. It's because it sounds like he was, like, an independently wealthy man. Like, he's going to hand over, like, this translates it to 330 tons of
really?
silver.
Wow.
330 tons.
That's all.
But in the beginning of Esther,
to his treasury.
we know that this guy is like crazy wealthy though, because in the beginning, remember his house?
Yeah,
His
the
power.
king is, but Haman seems to be independently wealthy too, and then gains all this power through the king. And because he doesn't like the Jews, he sets out this huge attack because they're already casting lots and all this stuff before he has the king's approval.
Well, in the letter, which I'm trying to figure out if Amon wrote it or the king wrote it on his behalf, it says, "But when I had inquired of my counselors," this is the king speaking, but I don't know who wrote it.
It says though in the beginning, the great king Artaxerxes writes
Right.
thus to the rulers. So I
Okay.
think it was him.
So he's saying, when I inquired of my counselors, meaning all of them, how this should be brought to pass, Amon, who excels in soundness. So he has counselors, and Amon is one of them. And Amon said his sound of judgment, his fidelity, and that's what made him rise above all the counselors and become this position second to the king. So he could have been wealthy though. I mean, how else would someone become a counselor?
Yeah.
Or an official? Probably with money.
Okay.
So when the other, what was the other name? The other wife, the other queen?
Vashti.
Vashti disobeyed the king. They did something to her, but when Mordecai disobeys the king, like, it seems like he got away with it in a way, right? It said that he did not bow down to Amon, even though the decree said bow down to him. Not the decree, sorry, I guess
The king had ordered.
the king had ordered bow down to Amon. So it seemed like he got away with it.
I don't see him getting away with it because he was about to get killed
Mordecai.
because of. Yeah.
Well, isn't it the fact that he doesn't? That's why this whole letter is written, and why now all the Jews are about to be.
Because in verse 4 it says, "But after they had confronted him a number of times, without Mordecai's paying attention to them, they told Haman in order to find out whether Mordecai's explanation, like to find out like if he's a Jew, would suffice to justify his behavior." And Haman decided that he's furious.
Right.
It sounds like he disobeyed and didn't bow down to Haman, and then it kept going, and then it kept happening,
Haman wanted to make an example, not just of Mordecai, but he purposely found out what group people onto to make an example out of all of them. Like, isn't that what you would do probably? Like, if you're, like, trying to keep your power and, like...
And that's what they did
to prevent, like...
That's what they did to Vashti.
Like, rebellion and, like, follow, obey, and kind of like what we see what's going on now, like, wear your mask or you can't enter.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Like, obey. But it sets you apart. Like, he was set apart because he wasn't. Like, with what's going on right now, like, people that aren't wearing masks, like, whether, you know, you agree with, you know, other alternative theories and, you know, proven facts out there or not, like, when you see someone not wearing a mask today, you feel like they're, like, not obeying something or protocol or what someone, you know, has told them to do.
COVID-19.
Right?
YouTube's getting flagged.
Like, you're definitely set apart right now.
COVID.
Going out and about.
Yeah.
And it probably would have been much of like what Mordecai was experiencing. And then they're like, hey, if there's this guy that's doing this, there's probably more throughout the provinces. Because it's 127, right? They say from Ethiopia to what in that letter?
127. India to Ethiopia. to Ethiopia.
Okay, like India houses like 1 billion people on its own. Like, now, not then, but still, like, that's a vast country.
Sarah, remember when you asked if the people living here, the Jews living here, were following the commandments?
Yeah.
They were following enough that they were being noticed. So do you think that they were following all of them? Now that it kind of mentions that?
Possibly. I mean, there's no way for us to see either way, for sure.
Probably, maybe.
But the only person that we hear of not bowing down was Mordecai. That's the only person we can see in here
But
not bowing down.
maybe it's because he was the only one closest, like he was like the only one closest there, like he's around all the courts,
Oh, yeah.
So, like...
Yeah, I get that, but I don't know if we could say that is the reason why every single one of the Jews was not bowing down. Just because of that one. I don't know. I mean, there probably weren't, but there's a possibility that they were as well. I don't know.
Right. And they were in exile, which we're like in exile in kind of a way, so like what you're saying, Gabby, like they were following enough to be noticed. And like when you follow enough of Torah,
you're noticed.
You're noticed.
Sure.
Like you don't eat pork and all the things that we probably all have come again, like across, was following Torah as well. That's Yeshua.
So do you think that Mordecai was not bowing down because of the commandments or because of his own beef with what is his name? Haman.
I would say because of the commandments.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I would agree with that too, Sierra.
What about Queen Esther? Maybe she wasn't then following the commandments?
But she's also his wife, and we know that she obeyed just like Mordecai had taught her to.
Okay.
She was whose wife?
The king's wife.
Okay.
Esther.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there was some other. So Mordecai, you're saying it's the same situation as the three.
Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing. Okay.
I would agree.
They said they were bowing down to a golden Nebuchadnezzar, right?
Yes.
Or a golden something.
A golden icon of Nebuchadnezzar.
Because bowing to someone I don't think it's still against the commandments unless you're worshiping an idol.
I think you're bowing there. He was wanting them to bow down for worship.
For worship.
That's how I'm taking it.
Yes.
Why else would you bow down to someone?
Because they're...
Unless you're like sort of submitting yourself to them.
Yeah, like that's what I would think because he was higher post. So it was like a sign of respect. I see bowing across the Bible as a sign of respect, and also, of course, it is.
But it also kind of shows your allegiance to like a king. Like my allegiance would not be to a king or even a president. Like my allegiance or a country. Like my allegiance is to like Yehovah and Yeshua alone. Like, so, it's like bow or you don't get this. Like,
let's try to put it into a circumstance for today. Let's say that the president comes up and says everybody needs to start bowing down to this direction every day at this time. Would you be okay with it?
No.
Or would you consider it like a sign of worship or control or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be... I would
so I think it would be the same way with this. The man came up and he said, bow down to me. Well, we wouldn't do it, obviously, and we would end up getting punished for that. Same thing for people saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. Well, obviously, we're not going to do a lot of that. We're not going to bow down to their wishes. So a punishment will come about because we think it goes against the Torah. So
yeah,
I do think bowing down to him would have been wrong, for sure.
Maybe there's a difference between a forced bowing down, so you must bow down to me, versus I'm going to bow down to you when I first see you. Like voluntary, like voluntary versus forced.
Yeah.
Could that be a difference, I guess?
Well, because there are some people throughout the Bible that bow down to, like, angels when they appear or whatever, and it's when the angels, like, don't do that. So, I don't know, though, because maybe that is worship. Maybe that is considered worship then.
I'm looking at some verses in Psalm right now, and it is talking about, obviously it's talking about David, and he bows towards the holy temple. That's one thing I see about bowing.
And Daniel does the same when he prays. He faces Jerusalem. I don't know if he bows down, but it says that he faces the holy city.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know what that word is in the Hebrew. This word bow down. If it actually means worship. Hold on, I'll look.
What verse is it in again?
It's Esther 3, verse 2, I think.
Yeah, and you can look in 5 as well. It says, Haman was furious when he saw that Mordecai was not kneeling and bowing down to him.
All I'm seeing is it says to bend, to bow.
So there has to be like some like connotation or, like symbolism with that, which I think is like pledging your allegiance, like your loyalty, like fidelity, like what it was talking about, like in the letter, like you're pledging yourself to them, to their decrees, to their cause, like their name.
Yeah.
Like, because in Revelation it talks about those that will bow down to worship, like, the beast and his image. So, obviously, like, bowing is submission and to, like, obedience, but to something that is other than, like, Torah and Yehovah. Like, it is... it's like you're taking on, like I said, like their decrees and, like, I don't know, their rulings.
And
here's something. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say all the searches that I have on bowing say like bowing to the Father, bowing to worship, bowing all that stuff. So I can't see anything that's like bowing to a king in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at a commentary right now on this to see if they have any historical insight on what we're reading about. And it says, the Targum says that Haman set up a statue for himself, to which everyone was obliged to bow and to adore Haman himself. The Jews all think that Mordecai refused this prostration because it implied idolatrous adoration. Hence, in the apocryphal additions to this book, Mordecai is represented praying thus, Thou knowest that if I have not adored Haman, it was not through pride, nor contempt, nor secret desire of glory, for I felt disposed because the footsteps of his feet for the salvation of Israel. But I feared to give to a man the honor which I know belongs only to my God.
Yeah, okay. So, like, the honoring, like, yeah. And it says there was an image. Like, he created a statue.
That's what this is saying. This commentary is saying that there was an image. But I don't know.
Yeah, I would take that as being idolatrous.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people do it today, especially with sports. People bow down to sports all of the time. So I think that's one way that people nowadays are having part in idolatrous things for sure.
Like taking a knee, or what do you mean? I've never.
No, like people like give themselves over to sports. So I guess I'm trying to connect it to what people would be doing now. Yeah. Like people worship sports. They have to always watch every game. They have to go to the games. They have to spend all of the money. They have to have stuff all over their house for the games.
They have rituals they don't do this or they do this.
They wear special socks and they
Yes.
eat this special thing and they do this.
They think it helps their team win. I would agree with that. And me and my husband Brady, like, we've had several conversations about how we see like professional sports as like idolism, like idolatry, like, because you're those people in themselves, they're handing their lives over for like this complete like fleeing, like non-profitable as far as like heavenly treasures like thing. And people worship them. They bow down to them, like, being like a singer or like performer, like people are like chanting your name. They're, fainting when they meet you. They're like, just have these fan pages of like people. So people are definitely worshiping like celebrities and like musicians, like in those ways, I would say, like, and that's just something you have to really check, like, that you're not doing, because it can be hard, because the world does it, like, so much.
Yeah, that just made me I was just trying to piece it together, like, how could we apply this? Because right now, we're not being asked to bow down to a statue, but what are we bowing down to that could become something that was an idol? That's what I was trying to think about. And I just know that a lot of people do it with sports and, like you said, music and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, because I don't know if you guys have ever listened, I forget his name, but he was the guitarist in Korn.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, hearing his testimony of, like, coming to Christ and accepting Christ, and part of his testimony, he talks about, like, how being on stage, you literally have, like, tens of thousands of people, like, worshiping and, like, chanting, like, and he talks about, like, I felt like a god being up there, and, like, having to, like, break away and, like, disassociate with that, because they are all chanting, they all know the songs, and we know that, like, spirits and things can be tied to worldly music. If you don't know that, there's tons of information out there on YouTube that, like, definitely shows you that side of the industry and how it, like, entraps you and stuff. But it's just one example.
It's crazy for me to realize that it's not just your words that are going to make you break Torah, it's your actions. Like, that's a simple, you don't have to say anything. You literally just have to, someone can say, bow to me, and you just don't even move. And that's it, you're dead as a martyr. Mm-hmm. You didn't even say anything, and it's just that one action,
Yeah.
Like, no final last words or anything. That's it. So it's so easy to die as a martyr. Not easy meaning there's so many things that you could break. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With that bowing on stage thing, it always seemed weird to me. I've gone to a few Christian concerts, and it seems so weird that people, as the audience, would bow down to worship God, but it seemed weird that they were doing it in facing the people, the stage, and these people were on stage, and that just seemed so weird to me. Like, yes, I know that it's to God, but there's still people in front of you on the stage.
And you still have to, like, even watch yourself with, like, Christian artists, too, because it's not different. Like, Satan comes as, like, a deceiver of light, and he has you think, like, he's not in Christian music, like, he is, okay? Like, Hillsong, like, Bethel music, like, that's hard for people to hear and understand, but there's tons of information that prove otherwise of who they're really representing on stage.
Speaking of Hillsong, their Christmas celebration this past year was full of pagan themes, completely all the way through it. I watched a video.
Yeah.
I watched a video about it, and it was like pagan gods, and I think Ishtar was in there, and it was a lot of things that they had up on the screen behind them singing that people weren't even paying attention to because they were too focused on that person. And you also made me think of pastors. People bow down to preachers and pastors, especially like the big ones. Like, let's think of
Joel Osteen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Think of him. I mean, people give him millions of dollars and they bow down to him.
TD
and they just follow him mindlessly.
Yes, all of them. And like where they're at, they're on like a center stage. And like they see them, it is idolism. And they probably like present themselves as kind of like God-like authority. And that's dangerous. Like there's lots of testimonies, and one in particular, I'm pretty sure her name is Bethany. I don't know. Maybe we can like link the description, but she came out of Bethel and their school of spiritual ministry. It sounds like a Hogwarts thing. It really does. And she breaks down like what is happening inside there, and like people are literally flocking there from all over the world, 70 different countries, and they're not using the name Jesus or God to save people. They're going to like psychic fairs, and how do you lead someone to Christ without using the name Christ or Jesus or God? You are leading them to demonic spirits. And to accept that, and like that's like a huge deception that's happening in today's church. And so when you know those things, like of course that's going to be in their music because that's their ideology. And if you've listened to some of those songs, it's lots of repetition, like chanting.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that that doesn't have power, like it does. Like there are things that come through that, and like you were saying, like you've seen people bow at concerts and things to the stage, like
they're facing the stage. The way you set up a stage, everyone's bowing down. It happens to be that direction. There's no one that just turns around and bows the other direction.
Right. And I've heard like testimony from Third Day, I think is the band, to where they like kind of humbled themselves, and they shared that they were putting on these concerts with like, how can I make this like bigger and better? And they weren't doing it for the right reasons. They were doing it more like for glory for themselves for a little bit. And they realized and were convicted that that's not okay. Like,
it's just scary. Like, imagine all those people that are worshiping together. Because one of the things that I know about, for example, like halftime performances, those are actually like satanic. Yeah, so the dances that they do, a lot of what's involved, it's actually like and it's what they do in Masonic lodges. And so one of the things that gives a lot of power is attention. So like I just wonder, like, let's say you're in a church where all of this like music is playing and these people are up there on stage and people are chanting and singing these songs like "Let Your Spirit Fall Down," whatever, like these things that they say. I just wonder, like, what kind of spirits
is falling down
are going in those places? Like, what kind of spirits are leading those people? And I used to be one of those people. I used to be in those places. Really charismatic ones. It's weird. I was at a place, and the chanting thing that you said is so on point. Because I was in a deliverance service. I wasn't prayed for, but I saw people getting prayed for, and they were falling. And some people were like rolling on the floor. Some people were like convulsing. And I was like, this is very strange. I feel very weird. I don't feel good.
Right.
But I was told, like, it's God, and it's
like
the Holy
that's
Spirit.
The Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
They're drunk in the Spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No. Like, when
it's not
God describes His Spirit, He's the same always, and He is calm and patient and kind and loving. Nowhere does it say He has a spirit of fear or chaos or chaotic or crazy, like that is all the spirit of Satan. And you're right, like what spirit are we channeling to come down on us, like when we're all singing this? And when all of these churches, like they're putting on worship things as like concerts. Like there's no, like, why does it look like a worldly concert?
Yeah.
You know? Like, mom duty. Mom fault. But, yeah, I would say, like, it's the same. And I think sometimes it's harder for us to recognize, like, in the Christian world, those things.
Yeah.
Or you want to, like, no. Like, there's no way. Like,
Yeah, I'm almost to the point of not wanting to listen to the new Christian music anymore.
yeah. We
And just listen to like the older
Hymns.
Christian music.
Yeah.
I mean, even we don't know what all happened then, but there's a good chance that they didn't practice all of this new stuff that the new songwriters are doing, that type of thing.
I would agree. Like,
The only thing I would say about that is that they were still lawless, you know? Not like I'm trying to like judge anyone, but I still see that music as being lawless. Now it is worship, you know, like it is worship to God. I just get weird about stuff like that because I'm like, well, what God is it, you know? So I don't know. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. But I mean, I guess at that point, you have to go sing just psalms. But then David at times was lawless.
Well, he did lawless things, but like personally, I wouldn't consider him lawless because he repented. Like he repented, and then and in the Psalms, like it shows his heart, and like, so I think all of us do lawless things, but I think it doesn't necessarily like I wouldn't label us as lawless, so to speak. We just like make mistakes.
Yeah. So, would you only want to listen to music that's written by someone that practices Torah and follows Torah?
I think I personally would be like a little bit more like acceptable, you know, like not have to question it as much.
Yeah, I'm the same way, but who is there? I only know one person.
There actually are more now who are like Torah keepers. I'm just gonna be real though, like some of it takes some getting used to listening to because it's not my style at all, and you know, like whatever. But
it's like, where does that come from? Like we're fed like what we like, you know, like the tickling of ear, like oh that music is nice, it's catchy, like. You know what I mean? Like, you do have to kind of disassociate. Like, man, I have been programmed, like, so much. You know, like, indoctrinated so much. Like, you have to take everything into question, which is okay. Like, we've all been there, and we've all had to, like, unlearn and relearn. Like, but I think sometimes people, like, overlook, like, the Christian, like, celebrity whatever world because they think no way, but I'm like, where do you think like Satan would be? Like he's not concerned with the people that are unhealthy, like he's not concerned with the people that are of the world, he's concerned with the ones that aren't.
I have like quite a few friends who, you know, I guess are still like where I was before I came to Torah, and they're like, oh, Kanye West is like, he's coming to Jesus, and Justin Bieber, and they like listen to it and they're like, this is amazing, this is God is doing a mighty work, like, you know, he's preparing to come and we're going to be raptured and it's going to be amazing, you know, like, and I remember like I had a discussion with one of my girlfriends and I showed her how Kanye West actually rewrote the Bible. I don't know if you guys know this, how he like rewrote the Bible, and everywhere it says God, it says Kanye. Like, it's like in the beginning, you know, like I don't know, maybe I've never read it, But
Instead of Jesus, it's like Yeezy, and like at some of his shows and performances, they're like chanting like Yeezus.
but like the Bible, though,
Yeah.
he took God's name out and put his name. Like in the beginning, Kanye created the heavens and the earth and saw that it was good. And so when I showed my friend, or like when I told her about it, and I said, just research it. And I encourage all of you guys to go research this.
Yeah.
You know, when she learned about that, she realized that she probably shouldn't be letting her kids like listen to that music. But they played on the Christian radio station, so she thought it was okay to listen to. So, yeah. This is just my opinion, and I'm not saying it's right. I could be very wrong. I personally would rather listen to worldly music because I just straight up know it's worldly than listen to like some of the Hillsong stuff that I'm just like, it's just so shady to me. Like, they don't come out and say what it's about. Although I don't like sit there and like listen to all this crazy music. Just saying.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
You're like, you blatantly know where that's
Yeah,
coming from, where
exactly.
the other one has like hidden layers
It's like
and
so
agendas,
shady.
and might not be like what we think it is.
I forgot what it was, but I saw one of them. It was on TV, and this was like maybe last year or the year before, or maybe it was before I came to Torah. I can't remember, but it was like something like Hillsong or Jesus Culture or something like that, and it was like nothing but pyramids, like everywhere. And I was like, for what? Why do you have that? For what?
I think that was Hillsong, like one
Maybe
of
it was
their
that.
albums, like not too long ago. Like there's a lot of that like pagan symbolism that you were talking about, like right there. So that bowing down thing,
Yeah.
not okay.
Moving on to another verse I thought of that
Okay.
I saw that was very interesting is verse 7. It mentions, so it says that they cast pure. And the word for pure actually means pure or Purim. So I just thought that was interesting that Purim also uses the same word.
So what I recently learned is that the reason why Jews today keep Purim is because Esther and Mordecai actually wrote a letter to the Jewish world back then, explaining what happened, and they decreed for the Jews to keep it. And then after some time, it was actually written in the Halacha, which is like the Jewish law, to keep it.
So this says something interesting about 3:7. It says Haman's decision to set an executive date for Mordecai's people was made by casting lots with a type of dice used to make various kinds of decisions. The Urim and Thummim, is that how you say that? The Urim and Thummim mentioned in the book of Numbers, chapters 26 to 27, are a form of pure. See also Proverbs chapter 16, verse 33, and Acts 1, verse 26. Thus, the Hebrew name of the Feast of Esther is Purim, the plural of for pure.
So lots, basically? Casting lots?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, Christian looked into this, and it said that the practice of casting lots to obtain a lucky day is still obtained in the East and is probably extremely ancient. A lot seems to be cast or thrown of some kind for each day of the month and each month of the year. The day and the month which obtained the best throws were then selected. Assyrian calendars note lucky and unlucky days as early as the 8th century. Lots were in use both among the Oriental and the classical nations from a remote antiquity. So it seems like it was more of like luck or unluck type of thing is what this is saying.
But it was a casting of some sort, like dice or like something.
Yeah.
That would determine. So is that
some type of lots?
So is that not kind of like getting into like
Divination.
Yeah, divination or like fortune, future telling isn't like something.
Would you say the same thing about the disciples when they were casting lots to figure out who the 12th disciple would be?
No.
No.
And
So is it more like
that's why I see it as like a different. There's probably a different type because here we have people that are following Yeshua, and here we have people that are completely not following him,
trying to kill?
So I sort of see it as like being a different type, but I don't know.
Is it just kind of like, like the coin toss, like at the beginning of football games? You know what I mean? Like, because it wouldn't be fair for them to like like there could never be a decision, so it has to be like a middle ground, like outside type thing that decides. So like the tossing of the coin, or like you cut the straws or whatever, or sticks. Whoever gets the shortest stick, has to do it. Like I kind of feel like it might be maybe something like that. Yeah.
I think so.
Like
Maybe,
what you're
yeah.
saying, because obviously, like the disciples, like used it, so they wouldn't obviously be doing like fortune, sorcery.
Well, even the Urim and the Thummim, and I don't know how to say it. I mean, the high priest wore that to get answers from God, like yes or no answers, really. I forgot what it's translated to, lights and. So I mean, in a sense, that was like casting lots too.
Yeah, that's what it said.
Yeah.
It's kind of equated.
Well, any last thoughts about this? We kind of, as a summary, no bowing down to anything other than God.
Yeah, and we encourage you guys to look into everything that we said. Like, don't just take our words for it, because it's one thing to hear it from someone, but it's another when you actually see it with your own eyes. So we encourage you guys to look into like Hillsong and any really famous, popular like Christian artists that you guys, if you guys, I don't even know, if you guys are listening to that, just take a deeper look into it.
And if you have like, and I would say too, along with that, like if you have such a strong like this huge like emotional attachment, like sometimes, like not sometimes, most of the time, that's like a very clear indicator, like of like there's something deeper rooted there and going on. Like if you can't just easily like disassociate, take a step back and look, like if there's a lot of like emotion that comes attached to something, like, do you get what I'm trying to say?
I think
I
that's
don't
a
feel
really
like I
good
have all
point.
the words.
No, it's a good point. I actually wouldn't even have considered that, and I think it's true.
Yeah. I had to check myself. Like, am I being? If I'm too emotionally attached to this thing or that or this song or this sport or this actor, or like just throwing these things out there, like okay, there's some sort of like deeper rooted connection. And you do always have to take what's in the physical and look in the spiritual.
Yeah.
Because it's both.
That's a good point.
We're not separated. It is always both. And sometimes I think we forget. Like, I know I forget that at times too. So I would encourage that, along with what you're saying, to look in. And if there's a strong emotional connection, to like figure out why, and to try to like, if it's anger or whatever it is, because they don't want to hear like what we're saying or what the person is sharing as part of their testimony of coming out of those things, or the exposing, like we definitely are called to expose like, what's being done in the dark.
Yeah, I would agree. Like for me, initially, giving up Christmas was a struggle. It was hard. In the beginning, before I really studied and learned. After I learned, I was like, oh, get that garbage out of my life. That is garbage. It's garbage. And it stems in garbage-ism, and it's bad. So, like, I think music has such a stronghold on people. So, yeah. If there is, like, some sort of defensive thing, it doesn't even have to be about music, just anything maybe that we've talked about, like, that is kind of a red flag, you know? And there's something holding on that doesn't want to let go.
Purge.
Get rid of the garbage.
Yeah.
The homework assignment is to get rid of one thing
Get rid of one garbage.
that we are holding on to.
Yeah.
Too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll share
That's
it.
pretty good.
Let's
Yeah,
share
that's pretty good. That's a challenge.
We can probably ask our husbands and they'll tell us or something.
True.
Or your kids. Mom,
Usually it's hard. It is hard for us to see, like,
Yeah.
the struggles that we have, and so sometimes it is good to get an outside perspective.
All right.
Sometimes it's not easy though to hear it,
That's
but it's good.
it's a challenge.
Yeah,
Let's,
it can be a
let's see what
challenge.
happens then.
Okay.
No telling. We can't talk about this until we're on
Our next
Okay.
chat.
Yes.
Our talk.
Let's keep it.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe next time, Sierra, you can be here too next week.
Yeah.
Not.
Oh, I wish. All right, guys.
We'll
Well,
do a ladies' retreat.
that would be fun.
Let's do it.
Cabins by a nice lake or a beach.
Probably beach.
Beach.
Okay, we can do a
Yeah,
beach.
beach.
Hawaii.
Okay, I'm down with that.
And this is 6 feet apart, okay?
Oh, we're social distancing
This
right here.
is 6 feet apart, so it just looks smaller in the TV. Alright.
Okay,
Bye, Sierra. We miss you.
till next
Bye.
time.
Bye.
Bye.